Here's a good question for you, and it's a vital one as far as your life and future are concerned. What do you think about most of the time? You tell any expert what it is you think about most of the time, and he can tell you what kind of a person you are and what your future very probably will be like. There's always been a lot of mystery and fraud and hocus pocus surrounding fortune tellers, and there ought to be. But if you'll spend an hour just talking to an intelligent and discerning person, he can tell you a great deal about yourself and your future. Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, "A man is what he thinks about all day long." It's really as simple as that. You are literally what you think about. By analyzing your thoughts, you can analyze yourself. Just as the alcoholic thinks about alcohol, the dope addict about dope, the criminal about crime, the medical student thinks about medicine, the lawyer about law, the young mother about her children and her husband. We are, as Emerson wrote, what we think about all day long. Now, of course, during the course of a day, we think about many things, hundreds of things. But what controls our lives is what we think about most of the time. So if you can tell me or anybody what you think about most of the time, I or anybody else can tell you what you are. Now this gives a person who understands this fact a really remarkable measure of control over his life, since he will become what he thinks about, and since he can control his thinking, he can, to an altogether unsuspected extent, control his life and his future. As one of the world's greatest psychologists put it, if you only care enough for a result, you will almost certainly attain it. If you wish to be rich, you will be rich. If you wish to be learned, you will be learned. If you wish to be good, you will be good. Only you must then really wish these things, and wish them exclusively, and not wish at the same time 100 other incompatible things just as strongly. In my opinion, confusion in a person's life can be traced to confusion in his thinking. People who know what they want and have decided to reach their goals at all cost are, for the most part, happy and well-directed people. That they achieve their goals goes without saying. So it all comes down to this then. Deciding on what it is you want more than anything else is the most important decision you can make. Once you make this decision, keep to it. Think about it all day long. Stay everlastingly at it. And then, instead of being on a river which winds all over the countryside, you'll find yourself on a straight road, the shortest distance between where you are now and the point at which you want to arrive. So remember the words then of Ralph Waldo Emerson. A man, and this goes for a woman too, is what he thinks about all day long. Now, what are you thinking about right now? Do you know what the 4 things are that an education can give you? Well, there are 3 P's and an F. The 4 great objects of life and education can be listed as poise, power, peace, and freedom. Let me tell you the 10 marks of an educated person. You can check them off as I run down the list and see how you qualify. The 10 marks of an educated person. 1, an open mind. This is the ability to toss even your most cherished beliefs into the trash can if you find they're not true. Number 2, the educated person will listen to all the information someone else can give him on the subject and then draw his own conclusions. Number 3, the educated person never laughs at new ideas. He never says that something is impossible, ridiculous, or that it cannot be done. Number 4, the educated person cross-examines his daydreams. A lot of people have become great by realizing that some daydreams can become practical realities. Number 5, the educated person discovers his strongest point and then makes the most of it, and each of us has one. Nothing succeeds like success, but mainly because a person has found his strong point and has learned how to play it. Number 6, learn the value of good habits and how to form them. Number 7, know when not to think and when to call in the expert to do your thinking for you. Dr. William Mayer once said, "It's not surgery that kills people, it's delayed surgery." Number 8, you can't sell the educated person magic. It's amazing and pitiable the great number of people who believe in luck, charms, special days, signs, Black Fridays, and other superstitions still around from the Dark Ages. The educated person tosses superstition right out the window. Number 9, the educated person lives a forward-looking, outward-looking life. Psychology divides the world into 2 classes, introverts and extroverts. The inward-looking introvert loses health, efficiency, happiness, and so on, while the outward-looking person builds, constructs, organizes, achieves, and harnesses the energies of the world. Now, most of us are a combination of both introvert and extrovert, but it's important that we turn ourselves and our minds outward, not inward. Number 10, and finally, the educated person cultivates a love for the beautiful. Beauty can be a fine book, good music, nature, a painting, any one of a million things. The educated person sees beauty in just about everything. So those are the 10 marks of an educated person. How did you do? Pretty good? Oh, fine. The next time little Clyde and Hermione ask you why school is necessary, tell them about the 3 P's and the F that only an education can give you. Poise, power, peace, and freedom. 4 things that every human being wants, but only those who have taken the time to obtain an education can have. And if you're already out of school and feel you kind of skidded by, an hour a day can give you the education you seek. Just 1 hour a day for the rest of your life. There was a very busy, interesting, and hard-working woman who was born in 1847 and died in 1933 by the name of Annie Besant. She wrote a great many things, founded colleges, spent a great many years in India working to improve conditions and so on. She was an extremely controversial woman, but she carved a place in history for herself, and her heart was definitely in the right place. She lived 86 busy years, but she wrote something once, just a short little thing that I like very much, and I'd like to read it to you. She wrote, "Knowledge is essential to conquest. Only according to our ignorance are we helpless. Thought creates character. Character can dominate conditions. Will creates circumstances and environment." Now, I think you'll agree that Annie could put a great deal into a very few words. You could take that quotation and write 10 volumes about it. But let's look at it a little bit at a time. She wrote, "Knowledge is essential to conquest. Only according to our ignorance are we helpless." And that's the first sentence. Now, conquest covers many things, all things. It could be anything from passing to the next highest grade in school, getting that new car you've got your eye on, or marrying the person you've picked out, or whatever the problem you're interested in conquering. It takes knowledge to do it. So you could pose it another way. The more knowledge a person has, the more things he can achieve. Makes sense, doesn't it? So all a person has to do is decide what it is he wants and then start getting the knowledge he needs to get it. Only according to our ignorance are we helpless. Now the next line reads, "Thought creates character." Now character is defined as the aggregate of qualities that distinguishes one person or thing from others. So we might say that the more qualities a person has, the more character he has. Thought creates character. Well then, the more we think, the more character we create. So thinking becomes pretty important, because she goes on to say that character can dominate conditions. In other words, if we don't like the conditions in which we find ourselves, or at least want to improve our condition, we can do it by developing more character, or by thinking more about ourselves and our place in the world. You see, being able to dominate conditions is a way of telling your own fortune, isn't it? We'd all like to do that, at least to the degree that we're able as mortals to do it. So character becomes vital to us. And her quotation ends with the words, "Will creates circumstances and environment." That could be put another way by saying, we will become, as far as our circumstances and environment are concerned, what we will. And this is another way of saying, our environment is a reflection of our minds. So what kind of circumstances and environment do you want? You can control it, you know, in better than 99% of the cases. All over the country, the world for that matter, there are literally millions and millions of human beings who live in an almost constant state of confusion and unhappiness. And you know why? Well, I believe it's because they're either conceited or ignorant or both. Let me explain. Just about all great men and women in the past and in the present have told us how they have achieved the kind of life they wanted to live, how they have come to know successful and rewarding lives. It's all been written thousands of times. The great prophets have told us, the great philosophers have told us, Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, Schopenhauer, Hegel, Emerson, James. They're almost countless. Our own modern business leaders and educators have told us of their philosophies which have guided them to the lives they wanted to live and lead. Throughout the ages of man, men and women have died by the thousands so that these great living truths could be passed along to you and me and our youngsters, so that we can learn from our betters, from those who've gone before, and those who have achieved the things we would like to achieve, or at least partly achieve, during our own lifetimes. If a person is not getting to where he wants to be, if he's confused and in an almost constant state of bitterness or cynicism, It's either because he's conceited or ignorant or both. If he knows about the tons of literature which has been written on this subject and doesn't believe it, he's conceited. He thinks he's smarter than all the great prophets, the brilliant philosophers who ever lived. If he doesn't know this material exists, he's ignorant. But at least there's still hope for him once he gets his hands on it. So, unless you're living the kind of life you want to live, it's either because you don't believe what you've learned or you haven't learned what you need to know. In either case, if you've been an adult for any length of time, it's your fault. Nobody's supposed to come and take us by the hand and lead us to knowledge. If we haven't got enough sense to dig it out for ourselves, well, we're just going to have to suffer the consequences. I'm sure we all pity the beggar who comes up to us asking for money he has not earned in the midst of a busy modern city. But we don't pity him because his clothes are filthy or because he has no money. We pity him because he lacks the only thing on earth that could help him: information, knowledge. It's the lack of this that makes us poor, that makes beggars of us. This is what makes us live lives of meanness and frustration in an abundant world. Conceit or ignorance? We must choose which of these words best describes us if we're not living or on the road to the life we seek. No man or woman on earth has the right to be conceited, because if he's conceited, he isn't important. There's nothing wrong with being ignorant when we're young, but there is no one more deserving of pity than the person who remains ignorant and who keeps his windows and doors closed to the light of truth and freedom. Ralph Perry wrote, "Ignorance deprives men of freedom because they do not know what alternatives there are. It's impossible to choose to do what one has never heard of." And Confucius said, "Ignorance is the night of the mind, but a night without moon or star." One time I read a book written by a psychologist about a man who said to him, "You know, doctor, I'd give anything if I'd gone to college." So the doctor asked, "Well, why don't you go?" And the man answered, "Well, because I'm 35 years old, married, have 2 children, and well, it would take me 10 years to go through college at night." So the doctor asked, "Well, tell me, how old will you be in 10 years if you go to college?" And the man replied, "Why, I'll be 45. And the doctor asked, "How old will you be in 10 years if you don't go to college?" The man thought a moment and said slowly, 45, I guess, and was completely confused that the age came out to be the same. Time will pass anyway, and if we want something very much, the passing of the years will not change our wanting it, but may only deepen our frustration and feelings of inadequacy. Now, I'm not saying everyone should go to college, far from it. I don't think everyone should. What I am saying is that if there's something you wish you had accomplished but didn't, and if it's good, look at the thing logically. Can you still do it? I read recently about a woman who graduated from college out west and she was in her 60s. If there's something you want very much to do, whatever it may be, and if it's good, why do it? If you want to badly enough, the chances are you can find a way. This is Earl Nightingale. Thank you.